Welcome back to a very special edition of News Channel 20 Sunrise. We're joined by a very special guest, Governor Bruce Rauner of Illinois. Governor, congratulations on 1 month in office. Today is the anniversary of the inauguration.
It is indeed.
Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Now, you've called this museum, to use your own words, a world-class institution, but it does face some challenges. How are you working with Speaker Mike Madigan to ensure that the integrity of this museum is upheld?
So what I understand is there's been some issues about the management of the museum and the library. There may be some inappropriate decisions, some inappropriate management processes. So I'm working with Speaker Madigan and the General Assembly to explore ways to maybe improve the management oversight and the structure so it can be run the right way for the benefit of all the people of Illinois, because it is a wonderful place and it's a great source of both education and economic growth through tourism and visitors.
We've heard about the millions of people that come through from all across the world here, and this really is a jewel of Springfield. We're about 1 week past your State of the State address, and you've been on the road just about constantly. No one knows more than you and your staff. You've got a lot of miles in the past week. Talking about some of those ideas, and one of the big ones that came about was your proposal to raise the minimum wage to $10 an hour over the next 7 years. It wasn't very well received at the time in the House chamber during the State of the State. And of course, the next day, the Senate had their own plan. Do you view that as business as usual, as you called it, sending a message to you that they're not ready to work?
Oh, no, not at all. I take it actually just the opposite. The Senate is very passionate about raising the minimum wage, and they showed their dedication to it by passing their own version of a bill. The reality is I support raising the minimum wage too, and we'll work out the detail on how to get that done. The critical thing is we do it in a way that doesn't damage small businesses in Illinois and doesn't hurt our competitiveness, because the key to long-run rising wages is a booming economy where everyone has multiple jobs to choose from and companies are competing to hire workers. That drives wages up, and a great education system and vocational training system so our employees, the workers in Illinois, are the most productive and well-educated in the world. That leads to the best wages, and we'll work together to get that done with the General Assembly.
Have you heard from Democrats? Are they receptive to the tax and tort and workers' comp reform that you propose in addition to minimum wage?
You know what? I've been very gratified. I've spent a lot of time getting to know members of the General Assembly. I've been meeting with the leaders as well as the members for many, many weeks now. And both Democrats and Republicans have told me they want to work together. They realize we've got problems. We are not economically competitive, and they are very open to finding joint solutions on a bipartisan basis.
Governor, during your State of the State address, you mentioned you wanted to put a freeze on property taxes. Now, yesterday, the Illinois Board of Education wants more property taxes to go to them so that they can fund their public schools. But if you're going to freeze the property taxes, how do you ensure that you obviously want education reform? How do you find a balance there?
That's a great question. We do need to find balance. Unfortunately, in Illinois, our property taxes are punishingly high. We basically have the highest property taxes in America. We're tied with New Jersey with high property taxes, the worst in America. And unfortunately, Illinois, like New Jersey, leads the nation in out-migration, people leaving. And a lot of it is because of our high property taxes. I've met with homeowners as I've traveled the state who've told me they may have to sell their house. They can't afford the property tax anymore. We've got to get property taxes under control. The key to funding our schools is not so much reliance on property taxes. We should support it more, our schools, from the general revenue fund of the state. Illinois is number 50. We're the dead last 50 out of 50 states on state support for education. What I want to do is increase state funding for schools. That lowers the reliance on property taxes and gets more funding for our schools.
Is there anything specifically you could do to help rural schools? Obviously, in school districts like Winnetka, per student, they get a lot more money than in some of the rural schools that we have in central and southern Illinois. How can you make sure that they are stronger?
That's a great question. The answer is by using general revenue from the state. We can focus primarily on lower income districts, more rural districts, where families don't have as high of income, because frankly the schools deserve to be the great in every district. It's our kids' chance at the American dream, and they need an equal opportunity at a great education. So by having more state support, we can focus on lower income districts and help them more.
You were very upfront in the campaign and in the State of the State saying that, first of all, you're nobody that nobody sent, and secondly, sacrifices are needed across the board from politicians, businesses, and taxpayers. One of those sacrifices came in an executive order earlier this week regarding the right to work zones and regarding union employees able to opt out. It's not been met warmly by union officials. They talk about being blindsided and that you're, to use their words, waging war against unions. Do you see it that way? I assume you don't, but how do you make the balance and how do you negotiate with union leaders to kind of patch that?
Yeah, so I have many friends who are union members. My grandfather was a proud union member. I am not anti-union at all, and absolutely this is not war. I am working for every family, including union families in Illinois. The key, we have two critical issues. One is to make sure we're competitive in Illinois so we can grow our economy. If we're not competitive and we continue to lose jobs, all families, including union households, are going to be suffering with their income and with the loss of jobs. We can't have that anymore. States around America are moving more and more to right to work. Texas, Tennessee, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, all right to work. I do not advocate Illinois becoming right to work. I don't support that. However, I would like to make sure Illinois is on the list of states that offer employment flexibility when companies are looking at which state to locate to, so I can recruit companies. So what I've said is, let's let local voters decide that issue by county or municipality. Then, if folks who want to have closed shop, more union, pro-union position, they can have that in their community, and they can keep that structure that we have today. For those communities, those counties that would like to compete for the jobs in Texas and Indiana and Tennessee, let them vote to have a structure where we can compete. That's all I'm asking, is to be competitive and have local voters control it. Inside the government, it's a different dynamic. Inside government, when a government union leader can give money to a politician that they've helped elect and give them campaign workers that work for the government to work on the campaigns, that's a conflict of interest. That's not right. That's not allowed in the federal government. That's not allowed in 29 states. And we need to change that in Illinois because it's a big problem for our state government.
You've talked about this being a First Amendment issue for those union employees who may not support where the money is going in politics. However, union heads have contended that there are separate funds set up, that not everyone contributes to the politicians. You disagree?
I disagree very strongly in that. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court has made comments that they believe inside the government, union activity, all of it is political. By its very nature, it's in the government, it's working with politicians, it's impacting the government, but it's all political. That's why I believe when we get our case to the Supreme Court, will be found and upheld that our view that these unfair share collections really are political activity, and they shouldn't be forced. If someone wants to join a union, they should join the union and they should pay the dues. But if someone who disagrees with the union or doesn't want to be in the union shouldn't be forced to pay those dues, because that's political activity, and they should have the freedom and the right not to pay those dues and to have their own political speech their own way.
We're about a week out from your first budget address. What are some of the things we can hear from you in this on Wednesday?
Well, I'll say a couple things. We have a financial crisis. We have basically run out of money. We had a false budget created by my predecessor, the prior governor. Departments have already run out of money. We're barely halfway past through the year. The fiscal year ends June 30th. We did not have an honest budget. It's a mess. Now I'll fix it. I've been working with the General Assembly. We're going to need to reallocate money from departments or activities that aren't critical and move it over into things that are critical. Daycare is critical for our low-income families. Our correction system is running out of money in the near future. Our prison system needs to be supported so our inmates are protected and the officers are protected. Many other programs need to get support, so we're going to need to reallocate money. And then for next year, we need to have a truly balanced budget that lives within our means, that we can pay down some of our bills, we can fund the pensions properly at the full level, and we can provide for the most important services. Many things will have to be cut. I feel very frustrated by that. I wish we could fund every initiative and every program, but we need to have discipline, we need to live within our means, and then if we can get our pro-reform agenda done, we will grow and we'll have more revenue through growth. We can fund even more support services for our neediest families.
We got a lot of details at the State of the State. We're going to get a whole lot more at the budget address. One thing we haven't heard here in Springfield yet is, where's the birthday party on Wednesday?
Next Wednesday is my birthday. It so happens to be also that's my budget address. It's a heck of a birthday present.
Pick your poison.
Great way to celebrate.
That's right. I hope my wife is traveling a lot for her early childhood education group. I hope she can be in town. She and I will probably just have a quiet dinner together with the dogs, frankly.
It's about time you've earned it. It's been a busy couple months for you. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much for joining us this
Yeah,
morning.
it's great to be with you. Thank you.
We know you're headed to the cemetery a little bit later today to honor Abraham Lincoln on his birthday.
We are.
Always
indeed.
welcome here. We hope to see you again soon.
I look forward to coming back. Thank you.
Thanks again, Governor.
Thanks.
We're going to head to break. We'll have a recap of the weather after the break.